So today we're watching CLONEMAN playing Reinhardt, and if you have any certain character that you want me to talk about in the future, please leave their name in the comment section down below and the character that you want me to talk about, and I'll try to get to them ASAP. Now for CLONEMAN, I really haven't seen a Reinhardt being played, or a big Reinhardt VOD for a long time, but here I finally found one, and I really wanted to talk about it. Overall, I feel like Reinhardt is in a pretty strong state. He has a pretty even win rate. I think maybe around a 50% or 51% or something like that. So he's not, super OP, but he's not really bad either. And overall, I feel like one thing that he does supply that a lot of other tanks really don't is just being able to really get your team to work around each other and to stay behind you. And as well, a lot of people still don't really understand how to play against the shield, and I feel like a huge amount of people kind of forgot how to actually play against Reinhardt's shield because all the metas where you didn't really see Reinhardt, a lot of people don't really know also how to play against his ultimate, so we have all of that going for us, and I guess that's some of the stuff we're gonna have to talk about today. Now, as far as the actual gameplay, let's get straight into this. CLONEMAN, he's pretty aggressive. A lot more aggressive than the majority of the Reinhardts that I see, and I think this is why he's so good. You can be a very AFK in the backline, not do way too much, have your support heal you, and get out some DPS with your DPS characters. And, that can work okay, but obviously you kind of get stuck at a certain point, and you really aren't helping your team way too much. But with CLONEMAN, we often see, of course, holding up the shield, protecting, allowing us to get some damage out with our DPS behind us. But as well, we're going in quite often. We're trying to get a lot of hits, trying to charge our ultimate up quickly, and just trying to get really nice ults as well, and be in positions where we can't actually get up and try to get our damage out. Sure, it might be a little bit more risky, but in the end, we can have a much bigger effect on our team and a much bigger effect on the game than just continuously holding up our shield the entire game. Now, with that said, if you do actually look at CLONEMAN for a little bit, he's walking up, he's hitting people, but once he gets to a little of HP, I guess, he actually physically backs off and waits for his shield to charge. He backs around walls or anything like that. I see a lot of people that just kind of stand up where they'd usually be shielding, and you're gonna die there. You're honestly gonna die. Try to go around a corner. Sure, you might not have as good of a position for your team, but you probably aren't going to die. And that's what we kind of see right here as we're waiting for a shield to come up, which, it's something that you probably do want to try to go for. So as we continue here, we keep hitting, we keep trying to get as much space as we can, but the enemy entire team gets straight onto our team, and we're kind of in a bad situation. Right here, what I'm going to say to you guys is that if you ever get in a situation like this, you're getting charged upon, charge and try to get a kill, try to get a pick, try to make it even, and mainly try to actually charge the really fat hitboxes. I know that you might want to try to charge the more important targets like the Mercy, and if you can hit that, then of course you should try to go for it, but if you could see a Mercy or a giant D.Va hitbox, you're probably going to hit the D.Va. And if you know that there's like an 80% chance you're going to hit the D.Va and like a 5% chance you're going to hit the Mercy, you know what one to probably go for. Fortunately for us right there, we actually got a Lucio when we weren't really even going for him. But remember to go after the fat hitboxes and not really just waste your time, as I see a lot of people do. So we get pushed to the next point, not the best for us. As far as if we are deciding ourselves to charge into the enemy backline, after you do charge in, either just smack and try to get as much ult charge as you can before you die. Right here we see it. Or just hold up your shield. Right here we're smacking, we're getting kills, we're getting damage, and then we hold up our shield. It gives us ult charge, and then it wastes a lot of the enemy time. Sure, we might eventually die, but we're still wasting a ton of time, which, you probably want to try to smack until you're at like half HP and then hold up your shield and see how much time you can wait from the opponents. Unfortunately, our team right here doesn't really back us up way too much. We get pushed back and we eventually die, but, we were trying our best and we did get a lot of damage out. I see a lot of people going in a little bit too ham with their shifts or with their charges as well. Make sure to not really charge in unless you know that a team fight is happening, you get a really good ultimate, or that, your entire team is going in. So again, a team fight. You don't really want to charge in most other situations, and if you're just in a push and pull type situation where no one's really going in, don't be the one to first go in, as you're probably just going to die before you get there. Yeah. So as far as shatters go, we've been seeing a ton of those this game from our Reinhardt and from the enemy one. Really all you have to kind of think of it as is that you shouldn't use shatter unless you know that the enemy shield is down. So earlier, for example, we saw that the Winston shield was down, so we could go for an earth shatter, and just barely we saw that the enemy Reinhardt shield was down, so we could go for a shatter. Even if they're just crowd controlled by something, then you can go for a shatter, but really don't go for your shatter unless you know 100% that an ability that can block it isn't up. It's probably one of the strongest things about Reinhardt, and his spacing and everything is very nice, but if you want to win a team fight, you have to hit those, and missing them is probably going to lose you a ton of your team fights. So do pay attention purely to what the other people are doing, as CLONEMAN almost never shatters unless either the Reinhardt's not there or the Reinhardt shield is down. Now, as far as his actual playstyle a little bit more, we are seeing a lot of aggression, a lot of damage being dealt out, but as well, we're really just trying our very best to let the DPS carry their best. We're getting a lot of space, we're pushing the enemy tanks back, and ourselves as a tank is just pushing the enemy back a little bit. We're making so that our people have time to get their damage out as really they can. A lot of the DPS in this game don't have like a super high amount of burst. I mean, some do, like Junkrat has a pretty good amount of burst, but a lot of the other ones don't have way too much burst. And if you can give them time and space, and if that's what you're mainly focusing on instead of just getting kills for yourself, that'll actually help you win a lot. As tanks, you don't really have to think about yourself that much. You should really just be thinking about your teammates and how you can really make them do better than the enemy. You kind of have to realize that often your DPS can be worse than the enemy DPS, but if you are being a very good tank, you'll still win that match. Because you'll force the opponents to essentially just have to play much better to make up for the fact that they aren't getting as much shields. Which, yeah, it's pretty hard to try to do. As far as team fights, I guess, if you are getting in a team fight that's not very coordinated, like the enemies aren't coordinated at all, you can just kind of shift in, go for a poke. That works pretty well. And some of my final tips before this match ends. You shouldn't really try to actually shatter the enemy team if they have a lot of healers that you know you can't hit, actually. We saw this at the very beginning of the game, even with just a simple soldier health pack. Since we didn't have any teammates to help us, and since there was the healers and the soldier health pack there, we couldn't kill anybody with our shatter, even though we got a 4-man. So do remember that just because you're crowd controlling people doesn't mean you'll get the kill on them. And kind of look at your surroundings and think if you really can kill the enemy team, and think, you know, do I have to hit a shatter on every single person, or can I hit it just on one or two? Like right there, we got a pretty good one, but there was so much healing that we couldn't do way too much with it, and our team really wasn't right there. Luckily for us right there, we saw the enemy Reinhardt that went for their ult. We luckily had our own shield up, and yeah, we mobbed that pretty quickly. The enemy team didn't really think that through way too well, and yeah, it works out quite well for us. Now, we also see that the enemy does have a Mercy, and this is very hard to deal with as Reinhardt. Generally, all you can really do in this situation is kind of just swing when the Mercy's coming down to heal people, or swing when the Mercy's coming down to res somebody. What you can also try to do is to try to get the pin on the Mercy that's coming down to res. It's extremely difficult, but, you know, I'd say it might be something that's worth doing, especially if you aren't in a big team fight, because you don't want to throw that team fight, of course. But yeah, you can try to go for that. And finally, on this defense, we're seeing a lot of really great ult combos, a lot of really great combos from our team overall. And you're seeing that we're actually going for damage, trying to hit the opponents, and we're not just holding on to that shield button. Again and again, don't just hold on to that thing. While it is nice and while you should do it when you're defending or when you're waiting, if you can get out the damage, you can often actually put on more pressure on the enemy by hitting them and hurting them and forcing them to back than by shielding them, where they can just kind of slowly push you back. Now, of course, you do need help from your healers, but if you can do that, yeah. And as far as aggression, I guess, of course, be calculated in your aggression. Don't just always run up and smack them. If you just see good situations where you can hit them once or twice, you know, go for it. Try to push them back and try to get a little bit of fear into the enemy team. Now we're on offense, though, which is working pretty well for us. I think we had Kefri on Winston, which was a bit of a meme on defense. So, you know, whatever. We have to go with what we want to. Right here, our teammates tell us, hey, push left. Everybody go left. Symmetra gets taken off on the right. We luckily have a res, but if you look behind us, nobody else went left. And that happens so often. You call it out, you expect everyone to go there, and nothing happens. So please, when you call something out, say it twice, ask your teammates, and look behind you before you go around the corner, before you walk straight into your death. Now, that could have maybe worked for us a little bit if we could have gotten, like, an attack, like a regular swing into an E, into another swing, or if we could have just gotten a free pin. But really, it was kind of risky, and we would have done a lot better if our team was going around on the left. As far as team comps, this match, and here's actually the situation where he just healed and we couldn't kill anything, which kind of sucked for us. But yeah, that wasn't great. But yeah, with team comps in this game, when you are playing Rein, you probably want a duo with a good hit scan, or with a good Junkrat. So either a Soldier, a Widowmaker, or McCree, or a Junkrat. They play behind your shield, they play with your damage, and yeah, that's essentially how you want to carry. You could also try to go with the Mercy, because you do synergize pretty well, and she can keep you topped off quite a bit. And you don't do that great with Zenyatta and any other the supports. You do okay with, but not that amazing. So maybe try to go with one of those guys if you can, you know, pick your duo queue. Of course, you can't always get a duo, but if you have the situation to, you know, go for that. Now, when we're also looking at some other stuff this game, you know, we're getting rezzed, we're getting tempo rezzed, all that stuff's very nice. But as far as actually beating the other Reinhardt in particular, we're seeing that we're going for a lot of extra swings compared to him. We're getting a lot of extra damage out, and if we have more damage out early, it means that we're going to be able to get our ult out earlier. And ults are how you win in the Reinhardt 1 versus 1. Often it's not really who gets the better pin, it's not really who gets the more damage out or the more swings or anything like that. It's who gets the better ult, and mainly who gets their ult faster. And who can counter each other's ults. So if you can get your ult early and then he gets his later after you've already taken off 1 or 2 of the enemies, then of course you can just kind of block his, go for damage. Yeah, it's important to get that damage out, get your ult before his, and win team fights like that. Here it's a little bit weird of a team fight. We're getting as much damage as we can. We get picked off pretty low, but we're coming back in here. We have our ultimate, we use it, we almost get something. It was fine. Go for a pin. A thing you might want to do with your pins actually though that we saw right there is don't overestimate how far you have to go. If you can just get a pretty close range pin, go for it, and then try to ram into a wall and back off. Don't really kill yourself if you don't need to kill yourself. I think that's pretty obvious, but I see many people that just go all the way. They miss the first person they were going after, so they're just like, you know what, I'm just going to go off to the back line. You're just going to kill yourself like that. A lot of people say just don't pin at all as Reinhardt. You're going to be dumb, you're going to waste, you're going to kill yourself. I'd say give it a chance and believe in yourself and do whatever. Practice actually trying to go for pins and kind of learn when they are applicable and when they aren't. If you never go for pins, you will never become one of the better Reinhardts. You'll just be an average one. And this is kind of like with damage and being aggressive. If you're always passive and always just kind of sit here and do nothing forever, you're going to be okay, but you're never going to be one of the best ones. And you kind of have to realize, you know, where you want to be. Maybe if you're a Reinhardt that just plays, when you're forced to play Reinhardt, you can be a little bit more passive. But if you do want to be one that can carry yourself some games, you know, it could be a little bit more active. While we're pushing this point, you know, it's pretty passive actually. We don't do way too much. We're just kind of waiting in the back line. Our teammates are getting a ton of picks, so that works really well for us. And I guess, you know, if the time does come, you can be the guy that AFKs on the point, calls out who you're seeing and who to really kill. That's mainly what we're doing out right now. We're telling our teammates, you know, go after this guy, go after that guy. You do have a very good field of view with Reinhardt, and with the PTR change, it's even better because now you can use the alt button, I think, or it's, yeah, maybe your right click or something to look around while you're shielding. So that's all pretty nice, and you know, it can overall just help your teammates while you aren't really necessarily doing way too much yourself and while you're just kind of waiting for the point to move. Some of the final tips I have as we're finishing off this point. One of them, which I think we see quite soon, right here, we go for a charge, we miss it. After you go for a charge, either start smacking or just back off. And right here we see them smacking. We go for that ultimate, we go for that push. They have no shields because they just wasted their Winston one, and we womp straight through them. Here's the Winston shield finally. So those are your main 2 options. Just generally immediately pick one of those and don't just kind of, you know, hold your shield a little bit, then go in, hit a few times, hold your shield a little bit. Pick one or the other, stick to it. If you make the mistake, whatever, but if it works out for you, that's really good as well. And yeah, those are kind of what you could do. You know, you can do some other stuff, but that's mainly what we see CLONEMAN doing in these fights. And finally, during these fights, we're backing off when we're at low HP. Because you shouldn't really have to expect your supports to actually come up to you. Remember that if your supports have to walk up to the back line, your supports have a high chance of dying, and that's not something you want to do. I think it's a lot better for you to often walk back a little bit and make sure that they aren't going to be dying for you, and then just kind of slowly push from there. Of course, you know, you might want to be able to push up, you might want to be able to always get your damage out, but if you are running low and your shield's down and everything's down, I think it's better to back off a little bit, get healed up, and then go straight back into the fight. We're finally finishing it off right here. You know, we're pushing up, we're getting our damage out. It's, you know, kind of close as far as the matches go. It's been a pretty long match. They pushed up really far in the first point. We get a great ult right there, stop that guy from going through his ult, from team wiping us, which is nice. Do remember that your ult doesn't have to be a full team wipe ult. If you can stop one of the enemy DPS's ults, that's often good enough. And if you can, you know, maybe hit just a Mercy by yourself, that's good enough. So don't be too hard on yourself with these ults, and realize that maybe a single target one will actually win you the game more than getting like a 3-man ult, because if you get a 3-man ult that doesn't kill anyone, you know, it's not nearly as good. So maybe keep that in mind and just use your ults a tiny bit more liberally, and try to charge them, I guess, a little bit earlier. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I really do like CLONEMAN, and I really do like Reinhardt, so I thought it was a really good mixture to put them together. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Press subscribe if you want to see any more videos like this in the future. And please, in the comment section down below, tell me who you do want to see in the next video. Anyways, as always, guys, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day. I'd like to thank Gilded.gg for sponsoring this video, and mainly helping me a lot through the adpocalypse. So, Gilded itself is a website focused on finding, founding, and expanding your gaming team with relative ease. You can schedule events, recruit new members, build team comps, and find teams to scrim with and to scrim against. Best of all to you guys, it's free. You can get started yourself with the link in the description below, and if you sign up by November 10th, you'll be entered into a chance to win a $50 Blizzard gift card. So, maybe I'll see you there.